The offices of Hayes and Associates, one of the city's most respected wealth management firms, were paneled in mahogany and smelled of old money, leather, and disappointment. My older brother Rhys Hayes was being meticulously groomed as the successor, the golden child whose path was paved in inherited privilege. My younger sister Cora had married into pharmaceutical wealth and spent her days organizing charity galas, her existence a constant, shimmering display of social ascent. And me, Kaelen Hayes, the middle child, the embarrassment, the one who had thrown away a guaranteed Harvard MBA to chase what my father, Silas Hayes, scornfully dubbed computer nonsense. He'd nearly choked on his imported scotch when I'd presented my business plan at 25. That's a hobby, Kaelen, not a career. Get a real job. Join Rhys at the firm. Stop embarrassing this family with your little experiments. There's a massive, critical gap in the market for small business security protocols, I argued, my voice tight. There's a massive gap in your understanding of how business works, he retorted, his eyes cold. You'll fail. You'll come crawling back. And when you do, you'll take whatever pathetic position Rhys decides to condescend to give you. I won't fail, I said, a promise I made to myself more than to him. They all say that, sweetheart, he smiled, a condescending slash across his face. They all fail. I walked out of his suffocating mahogany-paneled office that day and never asked for his approval again. The first 6 years of Aether Defense Systems nearly killed me. I lived in a studio apartment the size of my childhood walk-in closet, surviving on instant noodles and coffee, fueled by an exhaustion that cost more than my meager budget. I worked 18-hour days, obsessively learning every dimension of cybersecurity from the ground up: coding, network architecture, threat analysis, and client relations. My journey was littered with near-fatal mistakes, a partnership with a charming con artist who stole my first core algorithm, a client who refused payment for 6 months of intensive work, pushing me to the brink of bankruptcy, and a server crash that wiped out everything during a crucial government demo. My family watched my struggle from their gilded towers, waiting for the inevitable collapse they had predicted. Still playing with computers, Kaelen? Rhys would mock at mandatory holiday dinners, swirling expensive bourbon in a crystal glass. Dad's got an entry-level compliance position available. Just say the word. Still working on that little hobby, darling? My mother would chime in, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. We worry about you. It's not too late to find a suitable husband instead of this constant struggle. I stopped attending family gatherings after year 4. The energy I wasted defending myself was better spent building Aether Defense. And build it I did. Aether Defense Systems developed a proprietary intrusion detection architecture that could identify and neutralize complex state-sponsored cyber threats faster than anything on the market. We won our first government subcontract in year 5, our second in year 6. By year 8, we had 63 highly specialized employees, commanded $18 million in annual recurring revenue, and were recognized as one of the most innovative cybersecurity firms on the East Coast. The $94 million multi-year contract came through 7 weeks ago, an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security to implement our technology across critical infrastructure nationwide. Forbes ran a feature calling us the startup that's revolutionizing federal cybersecurity. The Wall Street Journal profiled our unique proprietary protocols. Venture capitalists were suddenly desperate to talk to me. My family, however, had no idea. I had kept my success meticulously hidden, using my married name, Kaelen Mitchell, for all public appearances and press coverage. The few distant relatives who might stumble across news about Aether Defense didn't connect Kay Mitchell, CEO with the daughter they had written off as a failure. I preferred it that way. Their approval was something I had stopped needing a decade ago. But their deliberate interference, I realized, was something I still had to handle. The bankruptcy petition arrived 4 weeks after the contract announcement. It was filed by my brother Rhys, claiming that Aether Defense Solutions owed him a fabricated $1.8 million from a significant investment he allegedly made in year 3. The petition alleged that I had defaulted on repayment terms, that the company was hopelessly insolvent, and that creditors needed immediate court protection to recover what they were owed. Every single word was a blatant, calculated lie. Rhys had never invested a penny in my company. The documentation accompanying the petition was wholly fabricated, loan agreements I'd never signed, financial statements that bore zero resemblance to reality, and contracts with signatures so poorly forged they looked like a high school prank. It was arrogant, malicious fraud designed to destroy everything I had built, right when I was set to change the trajectory of my life and the security of the nation. I immediately called my attorney, Vivian Shaw. They are trying to force you into bankruptcy using documents so poorly forged they're almost insulting, Vivian said after reviewing the filing. Forensic analysis will expose the fraud within days, but the filing itself creates legal complications that could delay your critical DAS contract implementation. That might be the real goal. Sabotage. That's exactly what they want, I confirmed, my voice dangerously calm. Rhys somehow found out I have a government contract. He doesn't know the scale, just that I have something worth destroying. He wants to shut it down before anyone realizes how big it is. Why would they do this? Because your success proves everything they believed about you was spectacularly wrong, Vivian summarized, her tone clinical. Some people would rather burn down the evidence, even if that evidence is a $94 million company protecting federal infrastructure, than admit they misjudged someone. The court date fell on a cold Wednesday morning in late October. I arrived early, dressed in a navy suit that was understated, professional, and commanded attention without being flashy. Vivian joined me at the defendant's table, accompanied by a small army of 4 bankers' boxes filled with documentation, audited financial statements, actual bank records, tax filings, and the crucial preliminary forensic handwriting analysis of every forged signature on Rhys's documents. My family staged their entrance 20 minutes later, designing it for maximum dramatic impact. Rhys wore the kind of Italian power suit he used for firm brochures. My mother wore somber black, performing the role of the grieving investor. My father carried himself with the rigid, self-important posture of a patriarch whose family honor had been gravely offended. They didn't acknowledge me. Not a glance, not a nod, not a flicker of recognition. I was the problem to be eliminated, not a family member to be greeted. Finally facing consequences, Rhys sneered to his lawyer, deliberately loud enough for the entire gallery to hear. Should have happened years ago. Dad always said she'd end up like this. The hearing began before Judge Harrison, a formidable figure known for his meticulous attention to detail. Rhys's lawyer presented the bankruptcy petition with theatrical gravity, describing my failing company, my pattern of financial irresponsibility, and my refusal to honor legitimate debts. My mother sobbed on cue. My father shook his head in practiced disappointment. It was a performance worthy of daytime television. Then Judge Harrison asked for the defendant's documentation. He reviewed the papers in silence for several long minutes. His expression shifted from professional neutrality to confusion, and finally to something hard and controlled, barely contained fury. Counsel approached the bench. Both of you. Now. The whispered conversation lasted nearly 5 minutes. Rhys's lawyer turned visibly pale, sweating under the harsh courtroom lights. Vivian, my attorney, remained perfectly composed, nodding occasionally. When Judge Harrison spoke again, his voice cut through the courtroom's silence like a guillotine blade. I read about this company in Forbes magazine last week, he stated, removing his glasses and staring directly at Rhys. Aether Defense Systems, the cybersecurity startup that just secured a $94 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security. He paused, letting the staggering figure hang in the air. The company you're claiming is insolvent. The company you're claiming owes you $1.8 million from an investment that, according to the defendant's documentation, never occurred. Rhys's confident mask cracked, his composure shattering. Your Honor, The defendant is lying. I haven't finished. Judge Harrison's voice cut him off, sharp and cold. I'm looking at audited financial statements from a Big Four accounting firm showing this company has over $118 million in annual revenue. I'm looking at bank records that show zero record of any investment from Mr. Hayes. And I'm looking at a forensic handwriting analysis from a certified document examiner concluding that every signature on your loan agreements is forged. My mother's performance stopped instantly. My father's righteous posture collapsed into a defeated slump. Someone in this courtroom is lying to my face, the judge continued, his eyes sweeping over my family. And based on the evidence before me, I have a very clear picture of who that someone is. Vivian stood, her voice measured. Your Honor, we have prepared a comprehensive response to this fraudulent petition. For the next 45 minutes, she systematically dismantled every malicious claim. She detailed how the forged signatures did not match my handwriting in any of the 23 comparison samples. She showed that the loan agreements referenced bank accounts that simply did not exist. She proved the financial statements claim massive losses during quarters when Aether Defense had actually posted record profits. She further established that the period Rhys claimed to have made the investment was precisely when his own bank records showed he had been overdrawn for 3 consecutive months. Furthermore, Your Honor, Vivian concluded, her voice gaining steel, Aether Defense Systems provides critical cybersecurity infrastructure to the Department of Homeland Security, power grids, water treatment facilities, and emergency response systems. Interfering with a federal contractor through fraudulent court filings is a federal crime under 18 U.C.C. Section 101 and potentially raises national security concerns. Rhys shot to his feet, desperate. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. It's just my sister's little computer company. Your sister's little computer company protects critical American infrastructure from cyber attacks, Judge Harrison said, his voice now glacial. Sabotaging it isn't just common fraud. It potentially endangers public safety and is an attack on the federal government. Ms. Mitchell, or should I say Miss Hayes, he turned to me, his tone softening with genuine respect. I apologize for the court's time being wasted by this malicious filing. Your company's reputation will not be affected by these proceedings. He slammed his gavel down. I'm entering an immediate dismissal with prejudice, and I'm referring this matter to the U.S. Attorney's Office for investigation of bankruptcy fraud, perjury, and potential interference with a federal contractor. Thank you, Your Honor. The case was dismissed. The aftermath was chaos. Court officers approached Rhys and his lawyer regarding the criminal referral. My parents tried to slip out quietly through a side door, but I caught my mother's eye as she reached for the handle. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, I called out, my voice perfectly level. I assume you were aware of the scheme. My father turned slowly, his face gray. Kaelen, this was Rhys's idea. You were in the gallery, nodding along, while he tried to destroy my company and risk my $94 million contract. Don't pretend you weren't part of it. We thought we were helping, my mother stammered, her imperious tone utterly gone. Rhys said the company was failing. We thought this would save you from yourself. You believed what Rhys told you because believing him was easier than admitting you were wrong about me, I said, gathering my files. The $94 million contract, that's real. The 63 employees who depend on Aether Defense, they're real. The technology we've developed that protects American infrastructure, that's real too. You tried to destroy all of it because my success made you uncomfortable. Kaelen, please, I'm done. Whatever happens to Rhys legally is his own problem. Whatever story you tell yourselves to sleep at night is yours. But don't contact me again. Don't pretend we're family. Family doesn't try to bankrupt each other with forged documents in open court. I walked out of the courthouse and never looked back. The federal investigation moved with shocking speed. Rhys's lawyer, facing potential disbarment, cooperated fully. Federal charges were filed within 8 weeks: bankruptcy fraud, perjury, and attempted interference with a government contractor. Rhys faced up to 20 years in federal prison. My father emptied his political connections and a significant portion of the family's fortune to secure a plea deal. Rhys ultimately pleaded guilty to reduced charges, served 4 years in a minimum security facility, lost his position at the family firm permanently, and was saddled with a federal felony conviction for the rest of his life. The once proud Hayes wealth management firm survived, but barely. News of the fraud, linked to the family heir, spread through Boston's exclusive financial community like wildfire. High net worth clients pulled their funds. My father was forced into early retirement. The firm was eventually sold to a larger competitor at a fraction of its previous valuation, a quiet, humiliating collapse of the dynasty. Aether Defense Systems celebrated its 11th anniversary last month. We've grown to 187 employees across 3 facilities. Our contracts with federal agencies now total $420 million over the next 7 years. Fortune magazine listed us among the 50 most innovative companies in America. I was named to Forbes' Women Leading Tech list for the 3rd consecutive year. The Wall Street Journal ran a follow-up piece with the headline, "The cybersecurity mogul whose family tried to bankrupt her and failed." When a reporter asked me why I thought my brother had done it, I gave my final, carefully worded public statement. Some people would rather destroy evidence than admit they were wrong. Success that contradicts their worldview isn't something to celebrate. It's something to eliminate. Do you maintain any relationship with your biological family now? I have an extraordinary relationship with the family I've chosen, I replied. My husband, my employees, my partners, the people who believed in me when I had nothing but a garage and a vision. The people who celebrated my wins instead of trying to manufacture my failures. As for my parents and my brother, they made their choice in that courtroom. I've made mine. My sister Cora reached out last week. The scandal had severely damaged her standing in her social circles. People whispered about her brother, the felon, her parents, the enablers, her family's spectacular public disgrace. Her message was a half apology, weighed down by self-preservation. "I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone with our last name," she wrote, "but I never agreed with how they treated you. I was too weak to say anything. But I always knew you'd prove them wrong." I wrote back a single, surgical sentence. "Support expressed only after I succeeded isn't support. It's positioning. But I appreciate the honesty about your silence." I meant it. I acknowledged the gesture, but I didn't forgive her. Growth has to begin somewhere, even when it begins years too late. 4 months ago, my daughter Grace was born. I hold her now in the nursery of the home I built, a home I purchased with money I earned, in a neighborhood I chose, surrounded by people I've selected instead of people I was born to. Your other grandparents, they won't be part of your life, I whispered to her last night. That's not punishment, my love. It's protection. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your potential as something to nurture, not something to diminish. She blinked at me with those newborn eyes, trusting and pure. You're going to do extraordinary things, Grace. And when you do, I'll be your biggest champion. Not because you succeeded, but because you tried. That's what family actually means. Not shared genetics, but shared belief. I placed her gently in her crib. They expected me to fail and come crawling back, proving their cruel judgment right. Instead, they walked into a courtroom and, in a fit of arrogant fraud, proved themselves to be the failures. The courtroom wasn't their victory parade. It was their exposure, their unraveling, their reckoning. While Rhys serves his sentence and my parents fade into the quiet shame of irrelevance, Aether Defense Systems keeps growing, keeps building, keeps proving that the only thing more powerful than family doubt is relentless, determined personal success.